Thanks for staying with us on SABC News. South Africa has no crude oil reserves of its own, and about 60% of its crude oil requirements are met by imports from the Middle East and Africa. Petroleum products are moved from refineries by pipelines, rail, sea and road to approximately 200 depots, 4,600 service stations and 100,000 direct consumers who are mostly farmers. Now, for more on the fuel industry, I'm joined by Tshikani Colleen Makhubele. She's the CEO and co-founder of Mzumbe Oil, and Nona Cwili. She's the CEO and founding member of Makwande Energy Trading. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Perhaps I can start with you. You've got 14 years of experience in the oil industry and 8 years in the banking sector. Take us through your journey to becoming CEO.
No, thank you for having us, Nzinga. My journey actually, there's a correction, I've got about 19 years now in the oil industry. My journey with the oil industry, or trading as in general, started within the bank where I was doing foreign exchange. Then I moved to Central Energy Fund, same on foreign exchange as well. That is now a national oil company. Then I moved to a Strategic Fuel Fund, SFF, within the SAF group. That's where then I had an exposure of the oil industry. With the formation of Petro SA, I couldn't go to Cape Town, and then I joined Total South Africa. So after that, a bit on Rand Merchant Bank, commodities desk, and from there it was Makwande Energy Trading.
Tshikani, can you take us through your journey to starting your business?
Thank you, and thank you for having us this afternoon. I started off actually in the ICT industry. That's how I was trained, that's my background, way in 2006. And in 2012, that's when I got interest through exposure into the petroleum space. And we started off obviously with doing our own research, understanding what are the opportunities within the petroleum space. And we're very blessed in this country that we've got a government that has policies for transformation. They're pushing for women empowerment and SMMEs involvement in various industries. So I saw that as a gap. And we registered our entity, we sought support from the oil majors, and in 2014 we're blessed to get our first contract with Transnet under the Supply Development umbrella of Transnet. And that's how we started. We're still a new entrant, but it has allowed us to learn, to grow, and to become what we are today, have our own infrastructure, employ about 25 people in the group, have various branches in the local communities where we operate, and be able to empower them. And now we are taking it one step further because we've got Shell supporting us now. They've come to the party as a private sector, seeing black women making efforts, making progress and coming into the industry. So they've created an umbrella for us to come in as part of the enterprise development, to support us, to capacitate us and train us. And we're just looking forward to a great future, with a support like that.
When you speak about the oil industry, there's so many layers to it, and it seems like such a complex industry with very high barriers to entry. Is that a correct assessment, and how would you say someone who perhaps would be interested in getting into this industry would get around those barriers?
Well, I would say that in terms of barriers, I'm not sure whether it's because I'm coming from the oil industry. There's just a perception sometimes that it's a bit of a no-go area, and people are scared to get into the oil industry. Even within the oil companies themselves, there's divisions that they're scared to go into, like the one I was in, on the trading side, on the engineering side. They prefer maybe to be in accounting areas. But then in general, if you set your mind that this is what you need, this is what you need to go to, it's really not much of a problem, but it's your mindset and the perception that, is it difficult to go in there? Have you tried? Or it's just you're feeling that it might be difficult. Mm-hmm. So if there's a position even within the oil companies where you're supposed to be training in certain areas, so you look at the position, there's a vacancy on the intranet, and you look at that position and say, no, not me, I'm not going there.
We were speaking a little bit earlier on about perhaps young women who may be interested in this industry or thinking about trying something new. What would you suggest to them?
I always say that you need to just do a bit of research, and Nona's right to say, people don't know the industry and they get intimidated by it because we have not previously been exposed to it in the areas of, business, the areas of careers where you can go into. I would say to the young women, do your research, understand what petroleum is all about, because there's various products in the petroleum field. You know, you move from gasoline, plastic, chemicals, diesel, gas, renewable energy. It's a vast space. So if you identify what it is that you want to play in, and then try and build your capacity around that, or now with the policies of transformation, the door is open with corporates or with government where you can knock and say, look, I'm interested to be developed in this area. Some have programs of supplier development, and they can take you under their wings and say, look, come in and learn, we'll develop you as a supplier who in future can be able to add value in our value chain, you know, as a corporate. So first and foremost is your own research, and don't be intimidated because you don't know. We all have started somewhere. We didn't know anything about it, but once you get inside, you start to learn, you start to build confidence, you make relationships, you form networks like what we are doing now, and things just start to move from there.
When you speak about transformation, has that been a problem or an issue that you found in your years of experience, or is that sector quite transformed and open to embracing black women?
I would say from my experience and from my understanding, the fact that I've managed to be in that division and I've managed to be in the sector as an entrepreneur, it shows that there is a kind of like openness in terms of allowing or giving an opportunity to black companies, especially women as well. So again, it goes back to perception, it goes back to the fear of the unknown. And I mean, when I get to the oil industry, when I started even the trading side, it was like there's no black person within the entity I used to work for, no black person, and you come into the environment. But the funny part is that you get the support from the very same people, for the very same men. Unfortunately, they support you to be where you are today. So there's a bit of perception. To me, I wish people can do a bit of research, and if there's workshop like the one that is in Durban by Department of Energy, on Friday at Moses Mabhida Stadium, if people can just pop in and see and hear and see the women, because we're not the only ones, and see the women out there talking about their stories within different elements within the sector itself. So there is opportunity there.
When we speak about the Department of Energy, what type of support does government give to you in the fuel sector, and what kind of legislation is there also perhaps to back you up?
There's different support that government gives. I think the first one was really to relax the regulations to allow us to enter, you know, because it's highly regulated. You must get a wholesale license or whatever license, that retail license that you need to operate with. So they have made it easier for us to enter in terms of regulations, and that's why you find that there's a lot of people that can obtain these licenses. And also they've made it easy with their legislation of transformation to say we want to see SMMEs, we want to see black women-owned companies especially operating in this industry. And they are forcing even the entities that deal with government in their own contracts and supply chain to say 30% of that must go to this group of people. So they have created the environment for us to play, you know. Also looking at that, there is more that they could do in assisting us, you know, to fund, once you get the contract, to really build your infrastructure, you know, and get your capabilities in order. So there's a lot more that could be done, but I think they have done their part in creating the platform and the environment for us to be sitting here today.
What type of capital investment would you be looking at if you were trying to start a company like yours?
Well, you start with your wholesale license that you need to pay for. If you don't have a cent, then it's a bit of a challenge. Maybe Department of Energy can make it a little bit easier. That maybe to open up for those who want to start as well. There could be that kind of like you move a little bit away from the costing. It's not that much, but if you've got nothing, it can cost you money. You need to advertise and all those things. But in terms of the wholesale activity, if you're working with the oil companies, you don't really need to have an infrastructure at first. You can use their own storage system. You can use the third parties for your transportation. The challenge actually where it is that you find that is within the financing. Because now for you to sell that one truckload, you need to go and pay cash upfront. And where do you get the money from? So the financial institutions as well, they've got a role to play, because they do understand that there is an entry and there's a platform and kind of like even the government as well, the lack of NEF, if they can play a role there, similar institutions, it becomes more of a funding. Then the infrastructure, you look at it maybe later on down the line as you're already operating.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely, I agree with what Sis Nona is saying. You need at the procurement of the product. You know, for instance, you get a contract that says, give us 2 million liters a month. How do you buy 2 million liters a month? We are looking at values of 100 million, 150 million rand. You need somebody to fund you that. Against what securities if you're a startup? So government needs to come in and support that.
Thank you very much for your time on SABC News. That's a wrap from the News at One team. We say goodbye to our SABC 3 viewers. Our coverage of the National Women's Day commemorations in Khadishewe near Kimberley continues on SABC News Channel 4 on DSTV. Pibelo Zonke has your weather after the short break. Goodbye.
Centrum multivitamins have a new look and upgraded formulas to help you live life at 100%. Whether you need the nutritional support of Centrum or the specially balanced nutrient blends of Centrum Select 50+, the added ginseng of Centrum Active for increased mental and physical performance, or Centrum Kids to help with nutrition and growth. Choose the world's #1 multivitamin, Centrum. Live life at 100%.